Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the FM Channel podcast. My name is Claudio, and I'm one of the co-owners and senior recruiters at Alex Young Recruitment. Today, I am joined by Karen Farrell. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No worries. How are you? You okay?
Really good, thank you.
Excellent. So just thanks for coming on. Just as a quick intro to listeners or viewers, depending on how they're kind of tuned in. Could you just give us a bit of an intro as to your current position now, where you're at, and then we'll kind of have a bit of a conversation as to how you got into FM, and just go from there. So you're currently FM at Turner Townsend, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So I basically look after all aspects of the facility services at Turner Townsend's global flagship office based in London. So I manage all the hard and soft services. I also look after a team of very motivated individuals. I'm involved in all the kind of health and safety audits, making sure that we're meeting all the standards for health and safety and for environmental. So that's kind of like a big aspect of my job. But the other side of it is I also, I always like to see myself as more of a culture enhancer, someone who actually enhances the workplace. You know, I think facilities managers, we've always been very backwards about coming forwards about our industry and showing the positive impact that facilities managers can have on workplace productivity and how that can actually, you know, improve organizational performance. So I'm very much about kind of demonstrating that in the workplace about positive impacts that facilities managers can have. I'm a real presence in my office, and I guess at the end of the day, you know, if the air conditioning's not right or you're in a chair that's broken, you're going to have a bad day, and that's where I come in. I come in and I make people's day better. So, but yeah, a culture enhancer is kind of like how I like to see myself as well.
Excellent. Cool. So before we go into, obviously, I know that you're big into well-being within the kind of the workspace. Before we go into that in a bit more detail, can you take us, let's go back to the beginning of your career and how you got into FM. I think basically about 90% of the people I speak to fall into FM. What's your journey? How did you get into the industry?
So I always say, was it a career of choice or a career of destiny? And I actually believe I was destined for it. And if I take you right back, I have had a almost like another career before facilities management. So I actually did a degree in music. So yes, and I majored in vocal studies. So I was a trained singer. I was a classical singer. So that's what I was doing back in Australia. I've been in the UK now for over 10 years. So back in Australia, I did a degree in music. I did shows, I toured, I did a lot of singing. And then I thought, I want to come to London. I want to be in the West End, like every other Australian. So I came over here. So that's why I came over. I've got a passport,
right, okay.
I've got a passport. So I came over and all starry-eyed, and I basically auditioned for all the big shows on the West End, got shortlisted, but never got the job.
Oh no.
So, and what I found was, I actually didn't really have any other skills. You know, I'd done a degree in music, you know, that's kind of what I'd always done. I taught singing, but I actually didn't really have any other skills. So I got a job as a temporary receptionist, which was fantastic because it gave me the freedom to basically be able to pursue this dream of mine. But what was brilliant about temping and doing reception was that I was able to work for loads of different companies, which was great, met lots of different people, got to see a lot of London. So I did that for about 2 years. I was temping. And then I decided that actually I needed a more stable job. I needed money.
Yeah.
And so I kind of gave up the singing career. I still do singing now as a bit of a hobby, but it's not really my, it's not my passion now.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I was doing reception, and then after about 2 years, I thought, you know what, I really want a more permanent job. I don't want to be temping anymore. So I was really fortunate. I got a job as an administrator within a facilities and health and safety team. And basically, and I mean, I knew nothing about sort of facilities and health and safety. I guess for me, I was just very, very good with people. And you'll quite often find actually a lot of people who get into FM are ex-performers who have done some sort of dramatic arts, because I think they're very good with people. They're very good at, putting, a smile on their face and things like that. They're good performers and dealing, with crises and things like that.
Good at pretending everything's okay.
Exactly, and I think that's a real skill, and I think that's where, although I maybe don't do performing now, as a profession, it certainly is, transferred into my current role. So yes, I got this job as administrator, and I was there for quite a few years, and I absolutely loved working there, and I really grew as a person. I had a lot of people sort of saying, we need someone to do health and safety training, we need people to do facilities training, things like that. And I just kept putting my hand up and saying, I'll do training. Obviously, I love an audience, so I was happy to do all the onboarding and things like that. So they really invested in me, this company, and they put me on my IOSH. They also put me on sort of my risk assessment training, my DSE training. So they really invested in me, and I think that's because I just kept putting my hand up saying, I'll do that. So I kind of, so I've definitely, I have this can-do sort of attitude. So after a good few years of sort of, I guess, expanding the role that I had and learning and developing, I got to a point in my career where I really wanted to be the office manager. I wanted to be the facilities manager. I wanted to have that ownership. And, I wanted that next step up. So I started looking for a job, and I was very fortunate to get a job as an office and facilities manager for a publishing company. And it was a huge jump from what I was previously doing. And it was very much a facilities management role, managing all the hard and soft services, managing a standalone building. Now, I'd had exposure to facilities, and I obviously had a bit of experience, but this was a huge jump, and I was out of my depth. Not gonna lie. I certainly learned, I learned a lot in this role, and I probably made all my mistakes there. But it was a huge jump. They took a risk. They took me on, and it was really interesting because my knowledge was very minimal when I first started there, but then over time. Every time I had an engineer on site, I would ask questions. I would then Google, I would then research. And it was really interesting to see the conversations develop. So initially, I didn't have much of an idea what they were talking about when they'd come in and they're talking about a specialist piece of equipment that had broken down. I didn't really know what they were talking about. But then as time went on and I became more educated and more confident because I'd sort of had conversations with them and I'd done, a bit of research myself, I was then able to have productive conversations with engineers and suppliers and contractors, and I could start troubleshooting. So if a problem happened, I was able to call them and say, I've tried this, I've tried that, I don't think it's this, I think it might be this. And it was just really interesting how the conversations kind of evolved. And I'll never forget, I had an engineer on site once, and I used to ask him loads of questions. And he said to me, Karen, people will take you seriously because you know what you're talking about. And I've never forgotten that, because I think, there are people out there who maybe don't know what they're talking about. Whilst for me, I like to have a really good understanding of how things work and operate. So
That's great. So just to put it in a bit of perspective, so when you said you're a bit out of your depth, the role that you took on, were you looking after were you the building manager for the whole building, just a few floors?
So it was a standalone office. So it was a standalone building. So it was only sort of, I guess, the company that was in there. It wasn't like multi-tenanted.
Right. Okay.
But it had undergone a huge refurbishment, and it hadn't been signed off as complete. So it basically had lots of kind of snagging issues and things like that. Now, I really had no idea what I was doing. I was dealing with, architects, designers, a long, extensive list of problems. It was huge, but I learned so much. And it was a fantastic learning experience. But then what happened was then I kind of, I sort of outgrew the role and I moved on. But before that happened, I started thinking, do you know what? I really love facilities management. I'm really enjoying this. And actually, I'm kind of good at it. but I don't have any formal qualifications. Now, I love studying, I love professional development. So I thought, you know what, I want to get a qualification or some kind of, you know, real good foundation of information. So I started doing my IWFM qualification. I started off sort of like a level 3. And again, I really struggled with that. I had to really work hard, but, you know, it was fine in the end. And, but, you know, you've got to, that's learning, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, and the other thing I did was I started networking, and that was the best thing. I started networking, I started going to events, I started meeting like-minded people. I built up my contacts. I was able to then reach out to people if I had problems or if I didn't understand something. I was able to go to facilities managers within my network. And that was really, for me as a young FM, was so helpful because I was able to knowledge share with other facilities managers, and that was great. And also, facilities management can be a very lonely job, and especially the role that I had there. It was just me. I had 2 people underneath me, but it was quite a lonely role. And I actually the job I'd had before, I had a team of people, and you know, we're all sort of on the same level. But because this role, I was at the top, you know, managing everything and managing people. It was a bit lonely. So it was really nice to kind of reach out to other FMs and kind of have this sort of friendship circle, I guess.
Course, yeah.
So then, so I was there for a good couple of years, and I got to a point where I felt I had outgrown the role and I'd learned everything. And then I was basically approached by an agency about a role for Turner Townsend, and I applied and got the job. And again, it's been another really big step up, you know, managing a much bigger, you know, global sort of flagship office. Yeah, a lot more people. It's been a huge learning curve, but I've absolutely loved it. And
Excellent.
I think for me, I love learning. I love taking risks. You know, I'm always kind of, you know, probably running before I can walk or whatever, but you know, I think you have to stretch yourself, and you know, that's kind of what I've always done. I've got that sort of real sort of curious growth mindset, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you definitely got bags of energy, and that comes across just from listening to you. And I think I first came across your profile on LinkedIn. I think it was kind of mid-lockdown when we kind of saw quite a few of some of your videos that you're putting out there on LinkedIn too, which I thought were really kind of inspirational, but also kind of quite uplifting, especially during this kind of, you know, the crazy time that we're still going through now, actually. So where are you at now then with your current positions? Give us an idea of the scope of how big your portfolio is. Is it multiple buildings that you're looking after, or portfolio?
Yeah. So I only manage the London office, and we are based at One New Change in St. Paul's. So it's a multi-tenanted building. So I just manage sort of our floor, but it is very busy. It's an agile workspace, so all hot desking. There's a lot of traffic. You know, there's probably about maybe 400 or 500 people a day coming in and out. So it's quite a heavily used office. So yeah, managing all of that. But you know, I've got a fantastic team who report into me, and you know, I really believe if you've got a good team underneath you and you inspire them and you empower them, then your job is so much easier. And you know, I really, for me personally, I love to lead by example. You know, I've had some not great bosses in the past, which, to be fair, has not been a bad thing. It's actually taught me how I don't want to be as a leader. So I've and then that sort of trickles down into my team. But yeah, so at the moment, just kind of the one floor I look after, but very busy and quite demanding at times, as most people are.
Excellent. And you're also involved with the IWFM as well, aren't you?
Yeah, heavily involved with the IWFM.
So tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, do you know what? The IWFM is fantastic. That was one of the best things I ever did, was becoming a member and, you know, doing, you know, qualifications through them. And as a result of kind of getting involved with the IWFM as a volunteer, going to events and things like that, I then started to think I would love to be on a committee. So I joined, so I'm actually on 2 committees. I'm on the People Management Special Interest Group, and also the Women in FM Special Interest Group, where I'm actually deputy chair as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, so I joined the People Management Committee probably a couple of years ago, actually. I went to an event of theirs and they said that they were looking for another member. And I sort of put my hand up and was like, I would love to join. So then I had to sort of go through the recruitment process to join their committee. And that was fantastic. And that was a real achievement for me as a young FM to be part of, a special interest group where we were sort of, it was all about people. And that's what I loved about the People Management Committee. It was all about people, inspiring people well-being, and then I joined the Women in FM, and that was probably about just under 2 years, probably about 2 years ago now as well. So they, it was quite funny how it all came about. They were looking for a venue for their annual conference, and they put it out on LinkedIn. I mean, I tell you what, LinkedIn is such a brilliant tool for engagement and
absolutely, yeah, I agree, yeah.
So they put on LinkedIn that they were looking for a venue to host their annual conference. And I put my hand up and said, I would love to host it at Turner Townsend's office.
Yeah.
And they came and had a look at it. And we've got what we call the town hall. And it's a beautiful space, beautiful views over St. Paul's, and fantastic. So they held the annual conference there. And again, a position had come available, and they said to me, would I like to join? And I said, I would love to. So I joined. So I was a committee member for a good year and a bit. And then a position came up to be deputy chair, and I was voted in to be deputy chair, which was fantastic by my colleagues. And I really, as deputy chair, I really aim to inspire and empower the next future leaders of the FM profession, because I think it's a fantastic industry. And I think, yes, people do fall into it, but you can also make it a career that you thrive in. And I think that's, I hope that I'm sort of an example of that.
Absolutely. No, I think you are, absolutely. And I think it's great to have people like yourself. I think you've got so much energy, and I think that I find that when I speak to FMs, whether it's from a hard services background or soft services background, or wherever they sit in the industry, I find that a lot of people really love what they do, and that comes across. And I think that the industry is all about customer service, it's all about people, it's all about communication. And I think that if it's obvious, I think those that do well, those that enjoy their job,
Yeah, and that's what they say, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. And, don't get me wrong, it's tough. It can be really tough sometimes. You're dealing with difficult clients and customers and expectations and needs, but it can be so rewarding. I used to love it when, people would say to me, Karen, you have no idea what a difference you've made to my working day. And just knowing that just kind of fueled me to just want to be better and do, because at the end of the day, I really care about people, and that's kind of something that's natural to me anyway. But, just knowing that I'm making a difference to people's working day, I mean, it's great, isn't it? That just makes you want to get up and do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I have to say, there's been a couple of times when people have sort of left Turner and Townsend and, bigger and better jobs or whatever, and at their exit interview they've said that one of the highlights, and I'm so proud to say this, one of the highlights of working for Turner and Townsend was the facilities management team. And I just thought, isn't that great?
That is great. That is so good. Sorry to interrupt, it's because you do find that a lot of people will say that FM is a thankless task. People will not know that FM teams are there until something goes wrong in the building,
Yes.
And I think to get that accolade, to get that recognition is great.
I know. I mean, it's brilliant. And to think that, that was one of the highlights, I just think that's great that we got that acknowledgement, because, we are very, we don't get acknowledged, and I think, it's just so, and I think you're right, it can be a thankless job, and I think people do maybe not appreciate us, or they do appreciate us, but they don't necessarily maybe say it and give us that feedback. So I think, the fact that we've actually received this feedback on numerous occasions, it just makes me really pleased. And
Excellent. So then moving on from there, you've now, just take me back, because I think when we had our first conversations, you mentioned that you've done a course, or you're now getting involved with Wellbeing as well, which kind of obviously is very popular, not popular. I say it's popular now. I think it's been brought to everyone's attention. Mental health has been brought to everyone's attention in a lot of industries, whether it's FM, whether it's within sort of recruitment. And I think the lockdown has enhanced everyone's awareness of it as well, which is great. But tell us about your involvement, because you're quite involved with, well, you go ahead, you tell us.
Yeah. So I mean, workplace wellbeing is something that I'm also very passionate about. And certainly every job that I've ever had, even if it hasn't been a part of my job, I've kind of made it a part of my sort of job description. But yeah, wellbeing and mental health, I love all that, mental health awareness and things like that. But yeah, so over the lockdown period, I started doing some kind of bite-sized motivational videos. And these were just things that I used during lockdown to help me, really. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to start sharing some of these things online. And they were just simple things about, how to change your mindset, how to have a positive attitude and things like that. But the response I had was overwhelming. People were saying to me that, it really helped them. It really resonated with them. A lot of people were saying, we hope that these videos continue after lockdown, because I think what lockdown has done is it's highlighted loneliness, depression, anxiety, and mental health and well-being is going to be one of the biggest health concerns now for the future. So I think it's really important that as facilities managers, that we start looking after people's well-being. So kind of on top of all of that, so well-being is something I'm passionate about. I basically did a mindfulness course. I did a 4-week mindfulness course. Why? Because I have the time. This is one thing lockdown has given me. It's given me time to explore things that I might not necessarily have done. So I thought, you know what? I've always been interested in mindfulness and meditation. And I'm not going to lie, I was one of these people who was like, meditation, boring. I couldn't think of anything worse. But I thought, you know what? I will give it a go, because everyone talks about the benefits of meditation. Yeah. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. And one of the things about mindfulness is to be non-judgmental. And I thought, you know what? I'm judging it. I think, I'm judging that meditation is boring, but you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I absolutely fell in love with it. So sort of on top of that, I did this 4-week course, and I thought, do you know what? I love this. I'm really good at it. I really want to pursue this. I'm going to become a mindfulness teacher. So then I did a mindfulness teacher.
Don't do things by halves, do you?
No. And the thing is, but what's been really nice is that, I've always said this, I feel like lockdown has unlocked my potential, because I've had the time and the space to, like I said, pursue things that I might not necessarily have done. And I guess alongside of that is, feeling stuck. So being in lockdown and feeling stuck can really have an impact on your mental health and your well-being. And the way to feel unstuck is to actually do something outside of your comfort zone, challenge yourself. And that's exactly what I did. So I did this course, this mindfulness course. And so now I'm a qualified mindfulness teacher. So my mission now is to basically combine the two. Now, mindfulness is really closely linked with resilience, emotional intelligence, empathy, and all of this will help people to, ensure that they don't risk burnout, that they change their mindset. It's also great for people who want to be more conscious and empathetic leaders. So that's kind of my aim at the moment. My mission is to really kind of combine the two, because they're very closely related. So that's kind of what I've been doing in my spare time.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Listen, I mean, if you've got time to do it and it's something you're interested in, and it's fantastic. So that's great. So Karen, tell me, what would your advice be? Because the idea of doing this podcast is that I want to interview people from the industry with a view to inspire other people in the industry. I don't, if people are looking to maybe leave the industry, hopefully they'll stay after listening, or young people who are just starting out in the industry. What would your advice be to, let's say, the younger generation who are thinking about getting into FM, or maybe they've fallen into FM now and they're like, where can this lead? What would your advice be to someone who's kind of just got into the sector?
Yeah, so my advice would be to them to ask questions, and never stop learning.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, and a bit like what I did when I was very young in, you know, my FM career, you know, asking loads of questions. If I didn't understand something, asking someone to explain it to me in layman terms. You know, I'm never going to be an expert, but you know, I have a very good understanding, you know, of how things operate. So that would be my advice. You know, never stop learning, ask questions. And and when I say never stop learning, you know, do a qualification. I think formal qualifications are fantastic. But if you can't afford that, you know, because there is a cost associated with that, you know, reading good practice guides, staying up with industries, you know, up to date with industry standards, you know, watching webinars, going to events. These are all the things that I did when I was a young FM, and they inspired me and they empowered me, and they have led on to, you know, fantastic opportunities. So, so that would certainly be my advice. And you know, set yourself goals. You know, I think I'm quite a big risk taker, so you know, I've stayed in a job for a few years. I get what I can out of it. I learn everything, and then I sort of, you know, I move on to the next level. So I think, you know, set yourself goals. You know, don't feel that you have to stay in one position. Maybe even find out what your passion is. You know, if it is well-being, maybe moving, sort of, you know, adding that into your job, or, you know, if you enjoy presenting, you know, try to get involved in sort of health and safety training. You know, facilities management is just so big, and it's, you know, it's a real opportunity if you know, the opportunities are there if you take them and you want them. That would, I guess, be my advice. I'm not sure if it's good advice, but it's my advice.
Yeah, well, listen, it's worked for you, absolutely. And I think there are so many, I think you're right. I mean, you don't need to, if you can't afford to do the courses because you're at the beginning of your career, there's a lot of conversations that can be had with other FMs out networking, even your contractors, because you're not from an engineering background, but you said when the engineers came on site, I would speak to them, I would learn what they're trying to do. So then you can have those conversations, and those conversations become easier with the next engineer that comes along, and they'll be like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. So it kind of, the job becomes a little bit easier, the conversations become easier, and you learn more, and then you can take on that next step, can't you, really? So
yeah. No, exactly. And I think the other thing is, a lot of people think that facilities management is easy, you know, and I must admit, I you know, in the past when I've sort of worked with junior members of staff, and they think, oh, well, I could do that. And don't get me wrong, they absolutely can. But, you know, I think you need to have, you know, as a facilities manager, you need to be, you know, very good with, you know, communication, you know, dealing with difficult people, you know, meeting needs and expectations. You have to be very, very thick-skinned. And I think, as you know, going back to my performing kind of, you know, past life as a performer, I have extremely thick skin. You know, I'm very good with dealing with, you know, difficult people with a smile on my face. And I think you can't always, you can learn that, but then some people don't have that necessarily. So
yeah, sure.
and I think a lot of people think, oh, facilities management is easy, but it's not. It can be,
it can be very challenging and very stressful. You know, it's everything that's going on behind the scenes that the building looks great, looks shiny, everyone's happy, but behind the scenes it could be like all panic, and it's the FM team that are kind of making it work, really.
Exactly. I like to see it as we're like ducks, you know, ducks on the water. It's all like smooth, but underneath we're like, woo.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Listen, Karen, you've been an absolute pleasure to speak with, and you're so full of energy, and I can see why you're good at what you do. I hope that others can see that, and it will inspire other people as well who can listen to this show. So listen, I'll leave it there. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Excellent. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay,
bye.
Take care. Bye bye.